Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Investing Bros. It is Monday, April 3rd. This is going to be a special day. But first, we got to talk about Bitcoin. We got to talk about this title. I already saw in chat a comment of someone saying, I don't like this title. It's kind of scary. I want to give it a little bit of a context here so you guys understand. We've said this before. A Bitcoin dump is coming at some point this year. However, the question is when? Is that going to be right now? Or are we going to see potential new lows coming in the next couple of weeks? Or do we still have a rally left in us and then a dump comes later this year? Either way, I'm still seeing as much as a 50% dump coming in Bitcoin's future. The question is, where is that 50% dump coming from? Make sure you stay tuned for the entire show to get all of that into your mind so you can trade profitably yourself. This is a special show because it is the first time we will be going to 90 minutes. For anyone who is newer here, thank you for joining. Go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. But we now are going to be able to not only cover the macro events, do the TA, and cover news. We're going to have that extra half hour to participate with you guys doing some Q&A, doing some extra technical analysis. We can get into some more altcoins that we don't always have time to cover on the live show. So if you are excited for that, make sure you stay tuned all the way. We no longer just go from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern time. We go from 9 to 10:30 Eastern time, Monday through Friday. If you guys are excited, let me see you guys say that in chat. I am joined by two amazing co-hosts today, starting off with the man sitting across the desk from me, Mr. T. Shroom, with your green hoodie. How are you doing this morning?
Well, Tim, I'm doing better than I deserve. I'm very well caffeinated this morning. Very, very well caffeinated. And I'm stoked to be starting off this incredible week. If you go to my screen, I don't have a quote for today, but Friday we had on Crypto Archie who used this term quite a bit. And I wanted to give a little bit of context for people who don't know that crypto tokenomics is short for cryptocurrency token economics. It is the study of how digital tokens or cryptocurrencies are designed, distributed, and managed within a blockchain or decentralized network. It encompasses various aspects such as, and I'll read these quickly, token utility, token supply, inflation, deflation mechanisms, governance, and incentive structures. So for those of you who don't know, this is tokenomics. And you might be wondering, where is this? Well, this is on ChatGPT 4. The Investing Bros have gained access to ChatGPT 4, and we're having a lot of fun with it. So, Tim, that is how I'm doing this morning.
Awesome. Before I throw it over to Piper, I do need to let Alex Green know you're being warned about those all caps. Don't scream at our chat. Just kidding. That's an inside joke over in our Discord. Love you, Alex. We're going to read names here in a little bit too, but I do want to introduce Army Piper. How are you doing this morning, my friend?
I'm doing better than Gary Gensler every day.
Oh, so good. That's one that's like better than you deserve. I think you can always say Gary's doing better than he deserves.
That's true.
Safe bet. Oh, goodness gracious. Well, it is going to be a great show. I see Kelly Kellum is in chat again. We're not reading names just yet, but glad to see Kelly in here. Good friend of the show, good friend of the Investing Bros. What was I going to say? There's other announcements coming. So not only is this show going to be a 90-minute show, guess what else is happening today? And I don't know if T-Shun wants me to say this or not, but I'm going to because it's putting pressure on him. But also Crux of Crypto, shout out to him, who's one of our moderators. And he is forming for us a newsletter that will be going live today, kind of in beta form, though. So just in case you're wondering, in the future, we will have a whole sign up that you guys can subscribe to a newsletter that goes out weekly. But with this being the first edition, what we're going to do is we're going to post it in our Discord in the general chat. So if you guys would love to be a part of the first group, the beta test of that newsletter, give us some great feedback so we can perfect it and make it exactly what you guys want. Make sure you guys are in our Discord. It's absolutely free. You can see that with the link down below in the description, and you guys can start seeing that weekly newsletter. I'm very excited about what it is going to be in the future, but we do need your guys' feedback. With that said, though, I want to know, before we get into reading some names and we get in some TA and stuff, I'm super excited about this long show. This 90-minute show is going to be amazing. Freedom to just do whatever we want to do with a lot of time now. But I want to hear your guys' feedback on this poll. Right now, the leading vote is 32K first, then down to 16. But T-Shun, what do you think about a Bitcoin dump? When do you think a Bitcoin dump will happen? Do you think that we will have it'll happen soon, like right now, this week, and now we go down to maybe new all-time lows? Not all-time lows, but new lows for this bear market. Do you think we rally a little bit more to 32K and then maybe go back and double bottom around 16K, 15.5K? That'd be about a 50% dump. Do you think we rally maybe as high as 42K and then we get a 50% dump down to 21? Or do you think we make it all the way up to 50K, which is a level we've talked about on the show, and we only come back down to 25.2? What are your thoughts?
I think it's going to be in line with the stock market. And I think it'll be kind of a sell in May, go away event for Bitcoin. And so I would put it around, going off our current trajectory. If folks were to sell towards like mid-May, probably Bitcoin would have gotten up to around 32. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, around 32, hitting resistance at that wick at 32,900.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Mid-May, we'll work all the way up to around 33,000.
Yeah. Interesting. Piper, what about you? I know we're going to talk more about this when we get into the TA section, but what are your thoughts? Where do you think we get to before a big dump comes?
Looking at the charts, I'm pressed to say that we have to get past where we are right now before we go any higher. And I'm seeing a lot of things in the charts right now that are saying, hey guys, this might be the end of upside in the short term. So
yeah. And what I'm going to do when we get in the TA section, I'm going to make a case for literally all of these options. I'm going to show you guys in the charts what the charts would show. We're going to talk about hypothetical news events that could happen, because you never know, with especially what we've seen more recently. The charts tell the story. Don't get me wrong. When you read the charts and you do the TA, it helps you fill it in. But as we said before, the charts tell you where things are going, the price levels to look out for, but the news dictates the timing and some movements that happen there, here and there. So we'll cover all of that here in just a little bit, but we do have to do the readings of the names. And you know what? This morning, I think that this was proof that bots are being used, because Piper and I worked together. The video went up first. It was unlisted, so it wasn't seen. So I sat there and I was ready. So as soon as it got turned from unlisted to public, I was ready to go. And it just pops on my screen, and a mellow fellow and Al Bundles had already commented.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know how that's not a bot, but I do want to congratulate them on building those bots. A mellow fellow and Al Bundles, and I'm this false accusations. I don't know if they actually use bots. They might just be that talented. I don't know.
Speculative accusations.
Alleged. They allegedly use bots. That's the term we now use so we stay out of lawsuits. So congratulations to you guys. You guys are just absolutely coming in clutch daily. Good, those comments. But let's see who else is here. Joe Nickel is here saying good morning all. A mellow fellow again. Justin Eubanks is here. CBD Suddy is in the chat. Brian D. Curtis Rorick. By the way, thank you to Curtis Rorick. I write him down as when I remember to, but Curtis is pretty good about letting me know, because he knows I sometimes can't see who commented first. Here we go. One of the favorite names, Servando Estrada. Yes, there we go. Love it. The classic IT guy is here. Good morning. Alex Green is here. Again, being warned with those all caps, Alex. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, if you're in our Discord, you might understand that joke a little bit better. Who else is here? Poshus is here. Crypto Trades is here. Crypto Trades is very excited about this 90-minute show. So if nothing else, we're here to please Crypto Trades.
That's right.
So shout out to you, my friend.
That's right.
Who else do we have here? Crux of Crypto, again, one of our moderators. This one I don't know. So SYED, is that Sid or Side? Or is the Y say its name like Syed? Not say its name. Say its name would be Y. Swide. Is it Syed, Sid, or Side? Either way, the last name is Sultan. So shout out to Sultan, whichever the first name is pronounced. Crypto JMP is here. Jinwoo Jang is here. Ninja Glock, JN Carr, Grand Roofing Incorporated, Jeff Sullivan, Flesk. Love that name. And it always trips me up, but I love it. Crypto Sec Guy is in here, one of our moderators. Who else do we have here? Maybe a couple more names, and we'll get into some content. I already shouted him out, but I'll shout him out once again. Kelly Kellum, the great.
Kellum.
Yep, there we go.
Kelly Kellum. Kelly Kellum.
Get a couple more here. Ooh. Hatchie? I don't know if that's an L or if that's, I don't know.
It's
Something.
It's
Ihatchie?
It's Hachi, and it's Tobias within our Discord community.
Oh, well, how about that, Tobias? Why don't you just have your name as Tobias? That's way easier to pronounce and say and read. Crypto Mini Bike is also here, and we'll go one more. Elo Brown with the last name.
Elo Brown.
Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, GS. GS gets the last name. I have to say GS's name. That's literally what I was thinking. I was like, oh, I didn't see GS's name, but there it is right there. If I didn't say your name, it does not mean that I don't love you. It just means it is time to kick off with this amazing show. I'm so excited about what we're about to do. Make sure you go in and smash that like button. Also, just so you guys know, I told you guys in that extra half hour, we'll be doing some Q&A. We'll be doing some technical analysis on coins that you guys ask us for. If it's a shill, we'll kind of have to process that one and maybe say no. But if you guys give a super chat's definitely, because you guys are helping support the channel, we'll get priority there, but we will try to look through chat. If you guys want to just put in chat coins towards that, last 30 minutes that you want to see us do technical analysis on, we will try our best to cover all that we can. With that said, though, let's go ahead and jump over to our macro update. I almost skipped a very important detail and went into charts. I want to throw it to Army Piper for our macro update of the morning.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Tim. And our new progress tracker down at the bottom just switched over to macro news for those that didn't see it. I love that thing. It's great.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. What is that, velvet? So looking here on the macroeconomic news today, guys, we've got ISM Manufacturing PMI. What this is the purchasing of executives for companies. It just shows how much the companies are buying, so on and so forth. Big event, but not the biggest that we have coming this week. Currently, 47.7 last month was the level on that. Consensus is that it's going to be down a little bit, but the forecast is that it's going to be up a little bit. So, 50-50, flip a coin. We'll see how that comes out. That's going to be coming out at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in about 48 minutes from now. So that's what we're looking at for there. The big one, though, that I'm watching this week is going to be Jolt's job openings tomorrow. That's going to be at 8 o'clock my time, 10 o'clock for the Eastern Coast over there. That is going to be the one that I'm going to be watching for. What this is the number of new job openings that have been created. So when we see this, and if it's up, that's a good thing. When it's down, so on and so forth. Right now, it's at 10.824 million jobs, okay? Consensus is that it's going to be down. And again, the forecast is that it's going to be up. So we've got some 50-50 split stuff going on this week, Tim, and I don't know how it's going to play out, if the forecast is going to be correct, if the consensus is going to be correct, if they're both going to be way off on the projections, and maybe it's really high or really low. We're going to have to wait and see, and of course, see what the Dixie response is to that on the U.S. dollar, which will then play out to the rest of the market. So that's what I'm looking at for there. So.
Very good. Also, we'll go to my screen here for that prediction tool of the FOMC meeting, which is about a month away. We have 30 days until our next FOMC meeting. Right now, we do see it starting to flip. So at this point, 58.3% are predicting a 25 basis point rate hike again in May. 41% still saying we go pause here. So we'll have to kind of see how this one plays out. Again, a whole month, a lot can change here, but I did want you guys to see that. Also, the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index this morning is sitting at 63 in greed over the last, let's go month here. Let's see what happened. Oh, I was already on the month. We kind of hovered here right at about 60, so we're kind of waiting for the next move. Traditionally, being in greed is a more of a bad thing, but as I've told you guys before, when you go out and look at the macro update, especially the comparisons I made to that run we had in 2019, during that run in 2019, we just kept climbing, even on the Fear and Greed Index, reaching all the way up towards 95 on the Fear and Greed before we ended up coming back down. So it's not necessarily a nail in the coffin, although, again, traditionally, I want you guys to update this information so you think for yourself. You kind of want to use this chart. Speaking of Kelly Kellum in chat, he was the one who kind of talked this through to me. He doesn't like that it says greed over here and it's nice and green, and then it says fear over here. Really, what you should look at is all this red. The deeper red it is, the more likely you should be buying. The deeper green it is, the more likely you should be selling. So you could kind of turn that into a buy and sell signal. But for now, we're not too heavily in the greed that I think it's the worst thing in the world. And we're going to make a case here. Again, we're about to jump in and do some Bitcoin TA. Going back to that poll, make sure everyone votes in that poll. I want to hear what you guys think. Right now, it's a pretty evenly split poll. We got, let's see here. The leader is 37%, so that's not even that commanding of a lead, saying 32K first and then down to 16K. But we only have 65 votes with 110 people watching. You guys got to get more votes in there. What do you think is about to happen? I'm going to make a case in this technical analysis section with the help of Army Piper to talk about all of them. But let's kind of just get a look really quickly at the Bitcoin chart, see what is happening here. Something that I'll start with a little bit of bearish news. And I know there's other things that Piper, I'm going to let him bring it up because he was the one that observed it first. But something I want to keep an eye on right now, and this is both, it could be good, could be bad. I want you guys to kind of decide for yourself. However, we did just on our daily Chart Prime Oscillator, again, one of my favorite tools I've ever used in trading. You definitely want it. It just popped up after a false overbought and red reversal triangle. It popped up not only our blue peak seeker, we also have bearish divergence. Now, traditionally, that's a double whammy. That's two calls on this one indicator saying that we think that we've topped out. The difference is when you're in a bull trend, this stuff happens all the time. I've said this before. Let's just reverse the script here and let's go back to the bear market that we had or we've been in. The question is, are we still in one or are we exiting out of it? But just look at all of the candy down here on the bottom of this oscillator. That's just what happens when you're in a bear trend. You're going to get a lot of oversold signals that don't necessarily come true. There was a really good one right here. I mean, right here where we did look like we might have bottomed out. We were going to start climbing back to the upside. That signal was good, but look at all these other ones that ended up being false. In the same way, back in the bull market of 2020, 2021, look at all of this eye candy up here saying, hey, we're overbought. It's time to reverse down, but we just kept ignoring it. This does not mean this indicator is broken. And this does not mean you're going to see this on RSI. You're going to see this no matter what tool you're using. There's so many tools out there that flash overbought, oversold. The difference is when you're in a bull trend, you ignore these reversal zones. When you're in a bear trend, you ignore the support zones. When you're in sideways action, both of them are extremely, extremely deadly. So I'm keeping an eye on this one. This is kind of a decision point time. We had the first signal that did not necessarily work. It did kind of mark the top and we started trading sideways, but we didn't really get too much of a reversal at this signal. The question is, does the second one come in and we get a big dip now? And there's some other things that might have some confluence with that thought, or do we break and go up? One reason to think we could break and go up, let's take our oscillators down here and let's go down to the 4-hour chart. I've been tracking this now for a couple of days. We've been talking about this trading channel that we've been in here on Bitcoin, and we're still definitely respecting that. But I noticed here, and I think I do this for you guys on Friday, but anyone who might have missed Friday's show, I didn't do this on Friday because we had a special guest. So I think only our Discord members got to see this formation. We are playing out an ascending triangle formation. Traditionally, these are bullish. And not only are they bullish, let's go ahead and if this ends up breaking out in the way that it should, we could have a Bitcoin price as high as potentially, this is setting us up towards 33,400, 33,500 or so. So keep your eyes on that. It's really a big decision point right now. Being is that we have this bullish signal right here, 2 weekly candles that both opened and closed above 26,000. That's majorly bullish. They also did it above the 200. The bearish signal's coming in. I said I was going to wait for Piper, but it just showed up, so I got to go ahead and talk about it. And I'm going to throw it to Piper for the channel of the Fibonacci. We are struggling right now below the weekly dynamic reactor. Now, just because you struggle doesn't mean you don't break through here very soon. That happens quite frequently, that you reach a level of support resistance, struggle at it for a second, and then break through. But this is something to keep an eye on, as well as that daily chart. Now we got that blue peak seeker, but the bullish side being above the 200 SMA, having this ascending triangle, having the fact that we've ignored / broken several bearish indicators because we're in more of a bull trend. This is kind of a mixed bag. And I want to pause right here. And again, I told you, we're going to go over the cases for all of these different price actions, but I want to throw it over to Piper to look at that ascending level of that channel of Fibonacci, because he has a very interesting perspective on some price action that could be coming very soon. So Piper, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. So yeah, as you already said, and he pointed out there, we do have this weekly dynamic reactor that we're being rejected on. Typically throughout history inside of this channel, guys, when we are below this, if we can't break through it to get it as support, then it is our resistance. And if I go back here just a little bit further, you'll see where we've rejected off of it back in history. Right here's one. And then if we go forward, you'll see that we got rejected on it multiple multiple times here as we broke beneath it. Right now, we're literally sitting underneath it. And one thing that I do want to show that you did not see over on Tim's chart with the weekly on here is that we do have our predictive range delta line coming, slicing right through the middle of the dynamic reactor right now. So double resistance. We've got our weekly dynamic reactor. We've got that delta line coming in there. And if you look right here on the weekly oscillator, you can see it looks like we're about to do a curve off of this upper bearish zone line, and that would give us a pinch to come back down. Also starting to see on the weekly a cool down on the MACD. The last time we had it led to this downturn here, and that drop gave us a move of 22%. So just want to point those two things out. And let's get back over to here, and I'll show you what I'm looking at over here on my Fibonacci channel. Some of you guys have seen this. Some of you may not have seen this throughout the times that I've been doing TA on here. But what I want to show is, sorry, I had to fix my OCD there. As we have been trading in this all the way back since 2011 in this channel here. This is the bottom, our two tops. You can see that we've always gotten our rejections, or bounces, I should say, on the golden pocket of this channel. There's our Rona crash. There's our 2015 dump low. And then if you go over to the most recent time period, you can see that we got inside of the golden pocket of this channel for about 2 months here, bouncing before we rejected, came back in. Look at that beautiful retest on the bottom of it, right? So what I'm watching for here is that if we get our rejection off of this dynamic reactor right now and came back down to hit the 786 of this fib channel here, that would currently, if you give it 3 weeks to a month to actually get down there, right? Because it's not a straight down line. That would be putting Bitcoin at around $19,000 to $20,000. Is it going to get that low? I don't know. You've got a ton of support that's going to be right here in this area. I don't have one up on it, but I'm sure if I threw a fixed range volume profile in there, you would see our value area low coming in somewhere around 21.7 and probably have our point of control, or POC, at around 23,300. So, I do think that we could come down to those levels, that 25 to 23 range, just because that's where we have our tops here on the weekly is about 25 on the wicks and then 24.2 on the tops of the candles. But what I'm really watching for here is for either we get our punch through here, get back above this on the dynamic reactor to come back up and test the golden pocket, which would be about 34,000. And just to show you guys something, if we were to break above this on the weekly, on this other chart that I have here on the dynamic reactor and that delta, a majority of the time we tend to trade between these gold lines. Our upper gold line on that's coming in at 40K. I just don't know that we can get through this right now. It may take a couple more weeks before us to get in there and maybe even see a small pullback to these previous ranges here, the $24,000, $25,000 range. So what I'm watching for is that. But what I do want to point out, and I talked about this yesterday on another show. I was on the Crypto Gem Hunters yesterday, and I broke down the whole market for them. And I said, what I'm really looking for here is I'm looking for us to either reject on this dynamic reactor or to punch through and get a test up here onto the golden pocket. I do believe at some point, whether it be because we went sideways into it over time or because we just get some type of FUD or some type of sell-off that brings us back down to the 786. If we get that, that is going to be my go point all in on altcoins. And here's the reason why. Because if we were to say, let's say it's like May, June, that's what we're hearing, right? The end of quarter, going into quarter 3. So June, July, I guess, that would be like a $21,000 to $22,000 Bitcoin. If we measure that back up to the golden pocket, that's an 84 to 90% run up. If Bitcoin does a bounce of 90% off the 786, your altcoins are going to go parabolic on their returns. So that's what I'm looking for. That's what I think could happen. But really, it's that dynamic reactor and that delta line on the weekly giving us just crazy, crazy resistance up there that I would have to see us break that before I get truly bullish. I see a much easier way to go down than there is to go up from this point, Tim.
Yeah, and again, we want to make the case for all of these, but that is great technical analysis that you got to keep in your bag. And that's the thing is that, like, you read the charts and they'll tell you what's going to happen. The problem is sometimes the charts tells you multiple outcomes, and you got to use your intuition. You got to use as much confluence. You got to use as much sentiment data as you can to make these decisions for yourself. So let's go ahead and start that with the rest of our time here. And in case anyone's wondering, we're going to do more technical analysis in that extra 30 minutes. So if you came and you're like, I want to hear about Ethereum, I want to hear about Cardano, I want to hear about Matic, I want to hear about XRP, I want to hear about Ajax, I want to hear about peanut butter and jelly coin. I don't know if that's one we're going to do, but if you guys want to hear about other altcoins, make sure you stick around for the extra half hour, because that's when we'll talk about that. But this Bitcoin TA is so important to understand, even for the sake of those other altcoins, because as we all know, Bitcoin is like that center magnet. It moves the entire crypto market. When it goes up, things go up. When it goes down, things go down. So this is why it's very important to grasp all this information. Go ahead and smash that like button if you're loving this. Let's go back to my screen here, Piper. So I've laid out the different kind of tools here, the different price levels that we're looking at right here. And I want to show you the significance. So I want to start off by saying, I think we've seen a lot of people here more recently, for example, and every single person I'm about to say, I heavily respect, even if I disagree with them, I heavily respect them. And I believe that you guys should too. And you should listen to them because they're making good points. We've heard the likes of like Gareth Soloway and Crypto Savvy. Both Gareth Soloway, I wouldn't necessarily call bearish, although he is bearish right now. Savvy is one that's very, very bearish. He's calling for even as low as $3,000. Either way, they're both in the camp that believe that we're reversing here now. I don't think they think we're going too much higher. Actually, Savvy, I saw he made a case for 32K, but he still is entering some short positions where we currently are. And the case to make that make sense, first of all, not only as simple as what we just talked about with Piper, where we've been hovering here. That's a flat top right now, but we are struggling to get through, along with that weekly dynamic reactor. I'll pull it up one more time just to give you the visual on that. I'm going to pull it down here in a second, but that's a very thick, strong dynamic reactor that's combining with a lot of other things to be strong resistance. Where that goes back to, let's go back down to the daily chart so we can see this a little bit.
Hey Tim, what's the top of that dynamic reactor also? Because we've wicked to the top of that in previous rejections. That could, I believe, put us in that range.
Oh, no. I mean, we've seen dynamic reactors, maybe not in the weekly chart, but several times we've seen wicks poke through and slightly change the color for a second before it reverses back. The top of that is going to be somewhere around 31, just below $31,000.
So there you go. Yeah, we just had one right back there in this last time that we were in it right there. Mm-hmm. So it wicked up that high. So yeah, that would easily be that 31, 32 line. So
exactly. And just even look on the weekly chart, look at how this could happen. So this one didn't happen slowly. There's other times where it happens very slowly when you play with the dynamic reactor. Back here, it does it slowly. But notice how we broke through it and then we came back down. We had a wick go back above it because of how dynamic. Oh, that's funny. But dynamic reactor is dynamic, hence the name. There we go. I got the actual one. So don't even be surprised if we wick through this, come back down, and we hover at this level for a second, go back up. My point here, though, is this even goes back with traditional TA, go back to these dips that we had back in July of 2021. Remember, we thought the bear market was back then. This is following the Elon Musk. Let me go to the daily chart. I want to go to the daily chart instead and pull it on my dynamic reactor.
Going over to that daily
chart. This is when we thought we were in a bear market back then because of all the FUD from Elon Musk. Of course, we ended up playing out almost a perfect Wyckoff spring right back here. At what price? Boom, $29,000. Guess what we've been hitting our head on? Right there at $29,000, those higher 28 levels. So that's the reason that this is very significant. And again, going back to things that Gareth Soloway and Crypto Savvy have said, they have both called for levels. Now, while some of them are going lower than this, they're definitely saying that we could easily reverse from where we currently are and hover out at about $13,000 to $14,000. What is $13,000, $14,000 in terms of what we are at right now? It's about a 50% dip. 50% dip. We've talked about that before. I believe a 50% dip is coming. So the scenario we have right here is maybe potentially we get some more bearishness from the government, along with, even though we all know banks are not steady, maybe the banks appear to have regained some composure and there's no crashes for a little while. Maybe we see a 50% dip on Bitcoin down towards 13,000, 14,000. Guess what? 50% roughly a dip. All right, that's the scenario we're looking for here very shortly. We don't break through the dynamic reactor. Everything's starting to look better on the economic front. That gives the banks more credibility. That, along with, I guess we're about to hear the government's about to sell more Bitcoin from the what's that? The road, the Silk Road
Yeah.
confiscation. Although they've already sold some of it, and the Bitcoin price went up on the day they sold it, so we'll have to see how that plays out. However, that would be the perfect storm. Bitcoin selling a massive amount of crypto. There's a bunch of FUD in the space. We haven't been able to break through key resistance. That would be the scenario for a drop down that low. Now, as Piper said, there's a lot of support between us in there. I'm sitting here saying, just so you guys know, I do not like a break below 25.2. Right now, I've told you guys there's several reasons why I believe that the bottom is in. And I'm not saying we break below 25.2, it's a shoo-in that we're setting new lows. However, as long as we stay above 25.2, I think that people should be fairly confident, like definitely more than 50% confident that the bottom is in. A break below 25.2, a break below firm resistance that we fought to break through and now are above, a break below that would shatter some bullish confidence. So anything that drops below there, I'm a little concerned. But let's keep going on here. Let's look at this next prediction level, around $32,000. There's a lot of things coming in confluence on this level. But let's just start with the fact that this goes back to that big dip we had starting off this bear market that people were thinking back here, this is really big, but we started a nice little pullback. That comes in right there at 32. Then we had this big dip. This was when Terra Luna crashed, but we were able to manage back up. We thought we were going to have a little more upside before a bigger dip, but we hit our heads on that exact same level, 32,600. That's going to be a big level. Let's say we do break through. Let's say we break through that dynamic reactor. Let's say we break through this little level at 29,000. That is former support. Now it's being resistance. We don't got very long before we have another level on our head. And again, I told you, Savvy is one, as bearish as he is. He's saying, hey, I'm going to admit there's a chance that we break through this level of resistance and go up to here, and then we hit our heads on 32.5. Then let's look at a 50% dip. A 50% dip, 32 is down to 16K. Well, guess what 16K is? Give or take. That's down the bottom. That's the current bottom. We could see a double bottom. Let's see if the price goes up here and then comes back down. We could see a double bottom on Bitcoin bear market. And then this is just one that we bounce here and we start a bull market later down the road and we move to the upside. Again, this one would be not too much different than the scenario I just painted out for you, but it's some sort of information. Something happens. Maybe a small bank crashes. Maybe there's a little bit of instability. We get a little bit of a push, but then something really strong comes in with the Silk Road, with other things that end up pushing us back to the downside. That's the second scenario. Is definitely a possibility. There is strong resistance right there. But let's start to move towards these two more bullish ones, which at the moment, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm leaning a little bit more towards these two. And I don't have time to go full into it, but I've talked about the similarities we've had back to 2019, where we had this premature bull rally that went all the way up to the golden pocket. The reason why I think this level right here at 42 is significant, though, is because it is the 50% retracement. Let me pull up normal Fibonacci here on the linear chart. You guys are going to see that 0.5 level. That's right there at 42. In the same way, this bull market didn't get quite as high, and the bear market is doing some crazy things that it's not exactly perfectly similar to other bear markets. I'm looking at this level between 0.5 and the golden pocket, which goes all up to $50,000, and saying, I think we could see a similar move like we had back in 2019, but I'll keep myself conservative and say, let's just start by watching 42,300. And guess what? If we did that, I still think a 50% dip is coming. I think if we make these rallies, maybe we see a little bit of like a movement like this. We make it up to 42,000, and then we see a 50% dip. Well, guess what that is? That takes us down towards 21,000. Back down here toward, let's see, back down around this level right in here to where we bottomed out somewhere around 20,000, 21,000. We bottomed out here back in March before we made this really big rally. Again, I don't love the break of 25.2, and then this kind of puts us in a spot where it's like, hey, it's still technically possible that we go a little lower. But let's just even say that timeline. Keep an eye on rising levels of support right here. And I think even with the Fibonacci trend that he was looking at, that level is going to be significant to keep an eye on. But watch potentially as we make moves like this and we come back down to support, still setting the higher lows in the last bull market. The last case, of course, is the big run up, though, to 50,000, the one that everyone I think is wishing they would happen, because I do think there's still going to be a crash there. I'm not predicting a 50,000 and then we just kind of hover and then we start a bull rally. What I'm seeing, and this goes back to our 2019, I think there's a very good chance that there's momentum here. We see another bank crash. We see lack of confidence. We see people just starting to continue to explore, getting into Bitcoin specifically. The price shoots up to 50,000, and then something drastic happens in the stock market. Something drastic happens where I think Bill Noble called this the everything's all right rally for the dollar.
Yeah.
And then you see a 50% dip back down to where? 25,000, 25.2, give or take, back to that significant level of former resistance that we've turned into support. In the same way, I told you guys, we did this back in 2019 where we had that massive rally, but this little last level resistance ended up becoming support down the road. Black Swan event took us below it, but if the pandemic had never happened, we would have bottomed out after this, after a 50% dip, and then we would have started our bull rally. I believe you could see something very similar happen where we do all of this, and then after this, we get to start our real, gotta get my marker, we get to start our real rally, and we actually go up to new all-time highs later on in 23 down to 2024. So I wanted to cover all that. That's the TA on Bitcoin we're doing. Again, we're not done with TA. We have more coming in about 20-something minutes. But for anyone who tuned in here and was like, oh no, is Tim and the team, is T Shroom and Piper and Tim now flipping the script and they're super bearish? No, like we are going to be open to the possibility because we are going to continue to be fluid in our thinking to make sure we're ready for any move. But when we say a dip is coming, the question is when. And the when could be after another massive rally, even as high as 50,000. Continue to do your own research. Continue to think for yourself. Again, I would encourage you guys. Thank you so much for everyone who's tuning in and watching us and loves watching Investing Bros. That is awesome. I encourage you, continue to watch people like Savvy and Gareth Soloway and watch Kelly and watch anyone you want. I don't want to say a bunch of names because then I'm going to leave a bunch of people out. And there are so many people I respect in the space. What I would encourage you to do, though, is watch all of them and then think for yourself and listen to the arguments and then make your own decision. You should not just blindly follow any one influencer because guess what? Not a single one of us has made every single call perfectly. We all have made mistakes. But when you have the most information to you available, you can make the wise decision and plan for any single outcome. I have a plan right now for if we have topped out and we're going down to set new lows, I have a plan. I have a plan for 32K. I have a plan for 42K. I have a plan for 50K. To be fair, we didn't cover it. I have a plan for, hey, the ceiling's going to get taken off and we're going to shoot up to 100,000 here. Technically, we could shoot to $1 million in the next 90 days, according to the CTO from Coinbase, former CTO. I don't really have a plan for that. I'm going to be honest with you guys because that's not going to happen.
Balaji.
But yeah.
Srinivasan.
You just always want to you want to be prepared for any possible outcome so that you can prepare yourself for it. I've rambled on a lot about that, but I think that was very important. If you guys love that, smash that like button. We're transitioning now, and you guys can see because we have this nice little bottom indicator. Shout out to Piper, by the way, who has been crushing it. You got your altcoin prices up top, so you guys can always see those moving. You now can see where we are in the show. As you can see on that little chart, we're now moving into the stock charts before jumping into those headlines. So shout out to Piper, but I'm going to throw it over to T Shroom to take it away for the stocks.
Oh, man, guys, you are in for a treat. We're going to get to them here at the end of the stock market open, and then we'll get through some traditional market news and then some crypto news. But there is some breaking news kind of in pop economics that is pretty big and not necessarily bullish for America. All right, let's start with energy, though, and that's going to allude to our first traditional finance story that we'll get to in just a second. But that is oil. Oil is back up $80 a barrel, Brent crude. Can you believe it? It is crazy. This must have taken an act of God. It wasn't God. It was OPEC. The next best thing. Just kidding.
Wow.
And so, so oil.
Might need to, for legal purposes, we're going to say that is not the next best thing.
That's right. Sorry, Pope. We'll talk to the Pope later on and do some confessions. But taking a look here at oil prices, they are up 6% here in the morning open for the New York session, and it is definitely going to be by far the biggest headline in the financial world, I would say, including crypto. All right, moving along, we can also see that that natural gas is not hopping on that trend. Natural gas is down. The natural gas futures contracts are down 4.2% this morning. All right, zooming in on our watch lists here, you can see the indexes across the board are mixed, actually. This is right here. S&P up very, very slightly. NASDAQ down 0.4. And the Dow Jones up 0.5. So money generally rotating into security, money rotating into the Dow Jones, out of the NASDAQ, and pretty much staying flat on the S&P. Pretty clear signs there. And that a lot has to do with the oil producers getting bought up, which we'll see down at the bottom of this market open watch list. Crypto, green across the screen. Cardano leading the way up 3.5%. Cardano tapping on that 40-cent door. Will it open it and get back above 40 cents? We shall see. Optimism chain just barely up 0.09. Matic up 1%. XRP, BNB, Cake all down this morning. So XRP is down 1%. Now it has been on a tear. So it is kind of recharging, refueling, tending to the wounded troops before it moves on, tending to those XRP Marines. All right. And Cake is down 1.3% there. And then our market leader for this morning.
The XRP Marines?
It's not XRP.
It's XRP Army. It's Link Marines.
Yeah.
Oh no. What a crazy.
All right, so now you have two things to confess after the show.
with the Pope.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna be sitting there for a while. Me and the Pope. All right. That's about it. Cardano's leading your crypto market watch list, at least on my watch list. All right, moving on down to metals, gold getting bought, silver getting sold, silver down 0.5%. Moving into your big cap tech stocks, some may even call them mega cap. Apple is the only green name there. So money is definitely rotating out of tech this morning and into oil. And we'll get to the reason for that in here in just a second. Tesla down 3.6, leading the tech market lower, if you consider Tesla to be tech. And then, like I said, Apple and Google are barely clinging to green status there. Microsoft down 0.3. Your bond yields are up, guys, here in the United States and over in Great Britain. Bond yields are up.
Why did you use like a Scottish accent for Great Britain?
I guess
if you had said the UK,
I guess that is inappropriate, isn't it? I'm sorry, British folk, aka Cryptex.
Oh my god,
Alex Green. So there we go. What are you gonna do? Bond yields are up. Maybe we'll get more into bonds, but bonds are really not the story today. Dixie's down slightly. All right, moving into cannabis, mixed, nothing to see there. And then your microcap tech stocks are down. C3.ai was trending this morning, and that is why. Okay, I guess it was either over the weekend or Friday. It had a huge move up, and that is pretty incredible. It got past this wick line of resistance at 30 and pushed through, and it is now it got all the way as high as 33.86. That's pretty incredible. That is for C3.ai. It is on the equity side, the SEC compliant AI coin. It's not a coin, it's a stock, AI stock. Okay, big banks, mixed. JP Morgan, barely red, and Bank of America, barely green. So pretty much unmoved. Banking is kind of receding into the background now, very conveniently, as oil is becoming very, very big, as you can see. Look at these freaking oil producers, guys. Goodness gracious. Schellenberger up 8% this morning. Marathon up 9%. Let's get a look at these charts. This is just insane. Oh my gosh, look at the gap on that. It almost looks like the gap in oil spot. Man, that is crazy.
Ooh, sitting right there, the dynamic reactor.
That is a very astute analysis there, and it's right in line with the equilibrium there from the Smart Money Concepts bundle. Very interesting movement in tandem with chart primes indicators, definitely helping us see through the fog of war here, as it is definitely war, guys. So that's going to wrap out your market open here. Overall, the indexes are, you can call them green. The NASDAQ isn't green, but that's because you're seeing money rotate out of tech and into oil on this huge oil story. What oil story, you might ask, T. Shrim? This oil story. OPEC just made the Fed's job more complicated. Here's why they did it and what could be next. Let's check this out, guys. Several OPEC members are set to tighten global production by an additional 1.16 million barrels per day until the end of the year, further burdening central banks' efforts to curtail global inflation, but critically protecting the alliance's border output strategy from political pressure. There's a lot to say here, and we've got an extra 30 minutes to talk about it, guys. U.S. President Joe Biden's administration has repeatedly lambasted the OPEC group for its production cuts, citing the inflationary toll on households and flinging accusations of camaraderie with sanctions-struck Russia. Wow, that is the sentence that summarizes everything that's going on. That very well put there, CNBC.com. That's going to basically wrap out the details there. Let's dive into it. Piper, I want to hear from you. What does this headline mean for markets? Is this going to totally throw a wrench in the inflation narrative, and we may see more hikes to come in 2023?
So it's very possible. So one thing you got to look at is that we have headline inflation and we have core inflation, right? The big piece about core inflation is that it doesn't include energy costs. So we could see our core inflation to continue to drop while headline inflation goes up from the increased prices of oil. There's only two ways that they're going to be able to fight that is either we're going to have to tap into our reserves, or we're going to have to start doing some more drilling here in the U.S. and up the U.S. oil production. So, those are two ways that they can control that. If their intent is to bring inflation down and keep it down, then they're going to have to, shift on some of their other policies about either national security policies on how much reserves we keep stocked up and stockpiled, or on their green policies of how much they're trying to limit production of oil. So that's what
what's really crazy is that there's no bluff. Like, Biden is I'm trying to think of how to even phrase this. He is bluff. Like, his unwillingness to actually seek United States resources for oil is crushing his ability to do anything. Like, why? Like, your only play, Biden, is to suck up to the OPEC to get as good a price as possible. But when you piss them off and they know you're not about to go after your own oil, you can't do anything. Versus, again, I'm not trying to put any type of political support behind anyone. But, for example, Trump could have had a very good case to criticize OPEC, because we know that Trump would have said, screw it, OPEC. If you're not going to give us a good price, I'm just going to pull up my own resources. And OPEC would have to respect that. They do not respect Biden because they know he is not going to go and drill in the United States. This is just something that's absolutely stupid. And again, I don't know if we should be too surprised that this is happening, but this is going to be another thing that just kills oil. And guess what happens when you kill the price, or when you raise the price of oil? Guess what's not far behind? Food, resources, like our electricity bills are going to go up, our food's going to go up, because the trucks that transport all that food to the grocery store that we all buy it at, they got to pay their bills too. And if fuel is extremely expensive, there we go. They got to charge more for the food. Yeah. This is absolutely stupid. And it's, again, I would challenge Biden, if I had the right to. It's like, hey, you should consider drilling, because that's the only way you can get OPEC to potentially loosen back up if they know they might lose us as a client. Is that the right way to put it? Are we a client of OPEC? I don't know. They lose as a provider, as someone who will buy that oil. If that doesn't happen, OPEC can make that price anything they want for us. They can make that. They can lower that supply anything they want, knowing that we're going to pay the price anyway, because that's our only option.
Yeah. Well, Piper, go ahead.
Yeah, I also find it very interesting, and Crimson Caravan Company has just made a couple of great comments. One, we just recently auctioned off our Gulf drilling rights. I believe China was the one that won the bid on that. Yeah, and then the other one is that Saudi Arabia, we have Patriot missile systems. It's an air defense system in Saudi Arabia. We've been there decades. Not a great assignment, by the way. So that the whole purpose of those was for air defense of the oil fields against people like Iran. Well, what have we seen recently with Saudi Arabia and Iran? They just kind of made a little friendship and, kumbaya, and shook hands and gave each other hugs, right? I do find it interesting that after that relationship kind of rekindles over there between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and they don't need so much military support in Saudi Arabia to protect their oil fields, now they want to put that pressure on to the U.S. with cutting back this oil production, which, mind you, it affects the whole world, but they know how heavily it affects the U.S. So we'll see how good that relationship is. Historically, making friends with Iran has not been the smartest and most long-term effect that you could have. So,
yeah, I would say two things. First of all is how much of this is being paid for by Putin? How much of this is being orchestrated and funded by Putin, and how much runway does Putin have? There's a definitely a theory that has not been proven baked into that question. But if it is Putin kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes, making it look like a major pivot to the east of centralization of power away from the west and towards the east, which is absolutely the optics of last week and this week. How much of that is just being bought and paid for by all the money that's being piled up in the Russian treasury as they're able to sell all of this oil, right, to a country that to a world that doesn't have has a shortage of it, right? So I wonder how much longer Russia will be able to afford to do that, and we shall see. I mean, TikTok, definitely they have a lot of issues that they're trying to fight. Now, there's a good possibility that Russia isn't funding this, and this is just generally more of a Chinese-led project of trying to concentrate power in Beijing, right? In Beijing and to some extent Riyadh. But anyway, I also wanted to point out this as well, which is that the Biden administration did approve back in mid-March a controversial Willow oil project in Alaska, which galvanized online activism, of course. But this was and I was hoping that the article would say how long it had been since the Biden administration had approved a large-scale oil project in the United States, but it didn't. But I would guess that this is a big one. This is a big one, and there hasn't been an approval of this scale. I would probably estimate in the entire Biden administration. That has kind of been, a trend for him, which is, if you're a climate activist, that's awesome. That's great. But if you're someone who understands how oil affects geopolitics, Biden has really held back a lot of weaponry, really held back a lot of resources. And only in March of this year did he go ahead and fire off that first approval. You would expect that maybe, since he had a blemishless record, that he would have waited for just the Republicans to come in 24 and then start approving them. But more than likely, the DNC has other plans and don't want the Republicans to win. So, but I did want to point that out, that it's not zero. Biden has definitely approved oil projects on American soil. So that, but that just goes to show that it's the exception to his rule, to his overall policy on that. And
I would like to know more about that, though. What does that mean? That's a very broad, vague statement. Oil project, like
oil project. Well, it's a specific one. It's the Willow. It's kind of like like approving a new pipeline or approving a new project. A project just means that they're drilling. They're drilling somewhere. The Willow oil drilling project in Alaska angers climate activists. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know all the specific details about it, but Biden is ticking more towards approval of oil, which has been a big part of his platform to not do. Okay, well, moving along, guys, remember we have some big stories here that are breaking, and we're going to get to those in the later part of this episode. But in the next story here is that Senator Warren, maybe you've heard of her, says banks have done really bad jobs and advocates for CBDCs instead of Bitcoin. And that article contains this now legendary quote, which is from Warren. She said, Warren noted that Bitcoin has nothing backing it except the belief in its value of those buying it. She added that the assets differ from platinum or silver because those enjoy some form of backing. So Elizabeth there showing her ignorance of both how monetary systems function in general and how they've always functioned, and her understanding of the technology of blockchain. So, Tim, what is something that sticks out to you about this story about your aunt, Warren?
Yeah, Auntie Beth. Ignorance is the right word. Just absolute ignorance. Or let's not even chalk it up to ignorance. We might need to just go ahead and full blown call this propaganda lie, because she's not dumb in that sense. I know people are going to say she is not the brightest bulb on the chandelier, but she's not dumb. She knows how banks work. She knows that banks do not back every single bit that they loan out with cash reserves. That's the irony here, is that she says it's backed by belief. Well, guess what fiat currency is backed by? Belief. It's backed by the belief of a certain group of individuals. There's a reason why they don't have to do all these different things. What's even more ignorant about it is that Bitcoin is not backed by belief. It's backed. You can call it a lot of different things on the blockchain, but let's just even keep it simple for most people who maybe aren't involved in crypto could understand. It's backed by code. So in the same way, a website, and that was the .com era, like people buying websites and buying all this stuff. What's that backed by? There's nothing physical backing up your ownership of a website other than a code.
Yeah.
There's a code on computers online that says Tim Warren owns such and so website.com. T-Shroom owns this, Piper owns this. That's code. In the same way, there is code that says Tim Warren owns X amount of Bitcoin, X amount of Ethereum, X amount of XRP, X amount of Cardano. There's code that backs up the value. And again, there are certain altcoins out there that I think are kind of dumb, and yes, there's code that backs it up. But when you don't have firm caps on there, and there's the tokenomics are all messed up. Those ones I question those. But when you have good tokenomics, and when you understand the code aspect of this, and you understand that money is simply supposed to be communicating value, you actually can start going to a roundabout way where you're like, man, Bitcoin and crypto being code is the backing of value is so much more valuable than a physical object, because physical objects can be tampered with, can be messed with. Even her examples of gold and silver. How many times throughout history did centralized systems, centralized authorities mess with, manipulate, cheat people out of their true value because they messed with the coins? They messed with the physical object. Nobody can mess with the code of Bitcoin. Nobody can go into your Bitcoin and make your one Bitcoin actually only worth 0.8 Bitcoins. One Bitcoin will always be one Bitcoin. Now, what that demonstrates in terms of value might change, but one Bitcoin will always be one Bitcoin. You can't say the same thing for how gold works and how silver works.
Hey,
Again,
Tim, I got $10 in Kohl's cash here. Can I give you this for your $10 I owe you? It's worth $10. This is $10, man.
Yeah,
I got you. I
love it. I love it. Well,
worthless, completely worthless unless you go to Kohl's. Guess what?
Yeah.
Bitcoin's value is based on the people that are in Bitcoin, period. And as long as our sentiment is that we are purchasing something of value, it has value. So we have proof of who owns it. There's nothing, this is used every day in a multi-million-dollar company is quickly losing money. But I'm just saying.
It's true.
But anything can have a value regardless of what your sentiment is on it. Just like you were saying, gold, shells, stones, fancy rocks, right? Like if I find this rock and I polish it up, I just turn this cheap piece of granite into a $25 piece at an art show. It's all about perspective. So
yeah. Speaking of perspective, Piper, if you shoot over to my screen really quick, I've got probably one of the least traveled wiki pages here, which is Elizabeth Warren's wiki page. And this is something I wanted to illustrate is that she's not a dummy, guys. She's got a JD from Rutgers University Law School, and she got that in 1976, and she passed her bar exam, right? So she's not stupid. She's not dumb. So why would she say something so silly and so clearly ignorant about Bitcoin? Well, and then in the same sense, in the title of this article is she's calling out the banks. The banks have done a really bad job. So she's not working with this PR stunt. She's not working for big bank interests, right? And I wouldn't peg her as doing some kind of 4D chess for the big banks here. That's not what's going on here. Here is who she's working for: CBDC rollouts, right? She's working for IMF and the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements. That's who is paying for this PR campaign. That's who wants Bitcoin and the banks to get a nice spanking. And so that the CBDCs can come in and say, yeah, you can't trust these bad boys anymore. Bitcoin will let you down. The banks will let you down. But CBDCs, that's something you can dump all of your wealth into. So I think Elizabeth Warren, she's kind of positioning herself as the big CBDC spokesperson, right? And she'll probably run on that, but a lot of politicians run not to get elected, but to spread the good word of whatever is lining their pockets, the interests that are lining their pockets. So anyway, I think that's a good, we've kind of covered this one pretty well here. So let's go ahead and move right on into something else on CBDCs, which is that CBDCs can be bridging assets between Bitcoin and TradFi, says the Bank of England. I'll go ahead and give my opinion after we read the details here. So this is asking the question: can CBDCs and Bitcoin ever exist? Coexist. Thank you. The Bank of England CBDC lead, Kate Fortune, certainly thinks so. So let's read what she has to say. So she said, what you have today is I have a Santander bank account, which Santander is just a big international bank. I can go to a cash machine and take out the same cash my friend with a Barclays bank account takes out, said Fortune, comparing the current financial system with what could be via the introduction of a CBDC. I think that could be really powerful in a world of stablecoins and other digital forms of money, to have a central bank digital currency that can be bridging assets between all of these different forms of money. Fortune argues that a bridge asset like this, it could also ensure that you don't end up with sort of separate ecosystems and help set standards, which in turn would help boost innovation. So here's my opinion on this one. This one's really, really interesting, guys, because this is the Bank of England spokesperson, who the Bank of England, if you haven't been tracking, which, you can be forgiven for that. If you haven't been tracking the CBD story, the Bank of England has been very outspoken against crypto, against private crypto. They were very outspoken against Nayib Bukele, the president and CEO of El Salvador, when they made Bitcoin legal tender. The Bank of England came out and lambasted them, and so did the IMF and the BIS as well. But the Bank of England has kind of led the charge of central banks that are coming out, not just neutral, but have come out against cryptocurrency. Jerome Powell, for the kind of the clown that he is sometimes, he has not come out starkly, and correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, he's not come out starkly against crypto, whereas the Bank of England has. Okay, so that's kind of the backdrop for these comments, which are a major shift away from that, using terms like coexist, using things like bridging ecosystems. Now they're anticipating and wanting to coexist with private blockchains. Very interesting timing, because what did we see at the beginning of last week was Ron DeSantis and Ted Cruz coming out about and joining a bill that bans CBDCs in those respective states, Texas and Florida and other states as well. So this is what happens when they have hit a wall. The big CBDC interests have hit a wall here. They just said, Ron DeSantis, Ted Cruz, that's basic. They are the champions. They are the gods of the 50% of the United States Republicans, right? Now Trump could potentially cure that ill if he really wanted to. But ultimately here, guys, what they're pivoting to here, and again, by they, I mean CBDC big interest, right? Folks who want to see CBDCs rolled out. If you don't know what CBDCs are, I'm sorry. Maybe we should explain that. CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, are going to be currencies that are rolled out by central banks. So the Fed has, the US Fed has their program FedNow, which is a precursor to CBDCs. And then China has been in the CBDC game. They have the most developed CBDC over there in China, and it's proliferated, I believe, to like 2 million wallets, which as a percentage of their overall population is meager, but it is being, it's not just being tested, it's rolled out. They have a specific use for it. But anyway, CBDCs, not good, but the Bank of England here has come out with a slight change in rhetoric, right? And they are definitely seen as the front runners in the West, and big critics of private Bitcoin, of private blockchain. So very interesting words there. Did you guys have any thoughts on this, Tim or Piper?
Yeah, I think it's a thing that they're going to try to eliminate, or they're going to try to belittle the FUD around CBDCs, in the sense of at first they might not use it heavily for tracking citizens and having what's the term that China uses?
The
social
credit score. Yeah,
social credit or whatever.
Yeah,
and then they can limit what you do as a civilian. That will just come later. So if people knew, because that's the thing in crypto, like on channels like this, a lot of people do know what CBDCs are. They know what they can do. They know how evil they could be. That doesn't mean the majority of people that hear about CBDCs think the same way. There's a lot of people who will hear the propaganda thinking a CBDC is just digital money. It'll be backed by the US dollar, but it just makes it easier to spend. What's the real difference between this and a credit card? It just makes all of my transactions happen faster. This is super cool. I'm going to use it. And all the while, the foundations will be being laid to set up years from now, at least in the United States. I don't think it's going to happen at first when a CBDC comes out, but years from now, there will become social credit norms. And at first, it might not be crazy abusive. I think that's what people need to understand, is that we freak out at things like this, and we're like, oh, if that happens, there's going to be no freedom whatsoever. It's like, well, it won't be bad at first, because nothing's ever bad at first. You don't drop a frog into boiling water if you want to cook the frog. Mm-hmm. You put the frog in warm water, like lukewarm water, and then you put that pot on a stove and let it boil slowly. And guess what? The frog never knows what happens. Same thing's going to happen with the CBDC. And that's why we got to continue to talk about how terrible they are long term, because guess what? We won't feel the pain of them until it's way too late. Mm-hmm. On how much control the government has. And that's the problem, is when you, like you said, with Elizabeth Warren and the things she has backing her, I'm really hoping she just doesn't get reelected. But what she knows she's doing, or what she doesn't know she's doing, is she is helping get this thing. It's like a Trojan horse into existence. And then once it's in existence, it's just about turning it on. And now watch the powers that be, the centralized beings that be. And those are not always necessarily even politicians. Sometimes politicians are just the puppets and there's someone else there pulling the strings. Watch them just slowly turn it on and it'll get too late. And we need to go ahead and start protecting ourselves from that and letting people know how absolutely horrible CBDCs are.
I have a devil's advocate approach on this though. How many people out there have not gotten into cryptocurrency because they just don't understand digital money and digital value? This actually could breach right in to an entire sector of the population that have not got into crypto at all because they just are afraid to even touch digital money. And now the government has introduced it, set it up. They see how it works. They go, oh yeah, this works pretty good. Digital money. It's fast. It's quick. Let me start looking at where my investments are at because maybe I need to move over into some of these better investments in the digital currency world too. This actually could open the door to some people that have not gotten into crypto because it helps them understand getting into the digital world. So
I think there's always, and this is my angel advocate because he played devil's advocate, so my angel advocate. There's always going to be examples of things like that happening, but the problem is, okay, what is the platform that Elizabeth Warren is using to try to really push these? Oh, these cryptos aren't worth anything. They're not backed by anything. CBDCs are backed by the US dollar. And so you're going to get a lot of people who only want CBDCs because they feel like they're backed by something physical. Because unfortunately, in the ignorance that comes with being free, and again, that happens. Free people sometimes are ignorant. You're just going to have hard-nosed, stubborn people who do not want to do anything with crypto. They'll do it with CBDCs because they think it's backed by something. They'll see it as an upgrade to a credit card, but they will never put their value into something that they don't understand the physical nature of it. I told you guys, there's a person in my life who literally said that they would support CBDCs but would never support Bitcoin. Even if Bitcoin got to be worth millions of dollars, he was literally just saying, I just don't like what that would be for the world. I wouldn't want to be a part of that, even if the value was. He wasn't even denying that Bitcoin's going to go up in value. He was almost making a firm, stubborn statement. I refuse to put my value in Bitcoin, even if that's the future, because I don't like what that future looks like. He prefers to keep his money in US dollars. And again, he said he liked CBDCs because that just kind of speeds up the transaction.
Hey, that makes
there's a lot of people like that.
That makes total sense. I mean, I'm going to put my money where that's, completely 100% backed by a printer also. Hey.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. Well,
it is time we got to transition. Do you have like one more story to just read a headline? Because we got to transition into some more TA.
No, there's quite a bit.
There's quite a bit.
And
So
we've been teasing it.
We might need to
not teasing it. Sorry.
Yeah, we might need to. If there's a big story, we can do it. But like, it's already 10:07. We got to get into the Q&A technical analysis. First day of doing this 90-minute show, so there's sure to be some hiccups.
Okay.
T-Shum looks surprised.
let's get into some stories here and we'll see how far we can get. I'll just do headlines here. So here's another one. Bitcoin up for grabs on the moon. SpaceX and partners with Lunar Crush to send crypto to the lunar surface. This is actually a pretty exciting one, guys. They're going to be sending 62 Bitcoins up to the moon. So that's pretty exciting. You and your buddies can get together now and go build a spacecraft to go to the moon for a profit. Moving along, PancakeSwap is launching version 3, and that's pretty exciting. It's going to be on BNB Chain and Ethereum. There's a lot of details for that, but that is actually coming out today, so be looking out for that, and potentially a pop in Cake. And then the U.S. government is going to liquidate over 1 billion Bitcoin that they seized from the Silk Road hacker. And then there's a timeline. That is really the question. And we will hopefully get into the details of that more tomorrow because that is important. The consensus is also important. And that is coming up April 26th to the 28th. Tim and I have bought our tickets. We've bought our plane tickets. We're going to be there. We're going to be having a ton of fun, getting to shake some hands, give some hugs, dap it up, get those selfies, and you are going to love it. Now, what you might be saying, but Tim and T-Shroom and Piper is also going to be there. Hey, these tickets are pretty expensive. Well, you're going to be able to get 15% off when you click on this link here in our beautiful video description. There's Tim up there. This is the live video. 15% off when you use the code BROS. You'll be able to see Piper there. You'll be able to see me and Tim, and Crux of Crypto will also be there. So that's going to be a lot of fun. That is Consensus, April 26th through the 28th in Austin, Texas. It's going to be a lot of fun. Here are our crazy pop econ stories. WWE is near a deal to be sold to the UFC parent company Endeavor. So you heard that right. The WWE may be getting close to getting bought by the UFC. And apparently there's a big fight with including Logan Paul yesterday in the WWE. He has now entered the WWE legendary fame, which is kind of crazy. All right, some geopolitical headlines. If you haven't had enough, Chinese spy balloon gathered intelligence from the U.S. military sites. Remember all those balloons that everybody cared about for half a minute? Well, apparently they were gathering U.S. intelligence on military sites. So not good development there. And then here's one that really surprised me. Japan buys Russian oil above $60 a barrel cap, breaking with U.S. allies in report. Japan, and I want to get Piper's take on this. Japan is one of our strongest allies in Asia. By us, I mean the United States. And the fact that they would do this, the fact that they would buy Russian oil above the market cap or the barrel cap is very, very clear. It's a very clear line that has been crossed. It'll be very interesting to see how the U.S. retaliates against this. Piper, what's your take on this story as it unfolds?
So I think it's going to be bad for them ultimately, because we do a lot out there with their defense services. It's not really a military. We're a huge factor to Japan when it comes to North Korea threat. We're a huge factor when it comes to Japan for their funding for what they do in their defense and their equipment that they get. I think this is not going to play out well for them. I think we're going to see a sharp pullback on the monetary support that comes out of the American taxpayer's pocket for someone like that. So,
okay, yeah, I tend to agree. I think it'll be very interesting to see how Biden reacts to this. Very, very interesting to see how that unfolds. But All right, well, I'm all done with the stories over here. Thank you guys so much for being flexible with our new schedule time.
There we go. Now we're going to transition. I just put it in chat to let you guys know. You guys can let us know what coins you want. We're transitioning to our first ever Q&A TA. This means you guys get to choose some of the coins that you guys want to see us break some stuff down. Piper, T-Shroom, and myself will be watching charts and let us know, any chart that we end up looking at, anyone in here, all three of us, if you guys see something you want to mention, let us know. I do see GS just put ADA, Atom, and VeChain. So what we'll do, we'll go one by one on that one, and we'll continue to watch to see if anyone else puts up anything else. Let's go to ADA real quick. Let me know what you're seeing here, Piper, as well. First thing is first. I mean, we've talked about this before, but big thing for ADA right now is that it broke and is using a former level of resistance as support. So that's a really bullish sign, but more zooming in here to more recently. Let me go down to the 4-hour chart even and see what's happening here. I want to go ahead and turn on my Market Oracle and my Smart Money Concepts. Let's take a look at what it is doing. So this is something that's actually really important. After on the hourly chart, let me go down to the hourly chart. We had been in a bull trend, rejecting several of these predictive reversals down, meaning they just weren't good calls, confirming we're in a bull trend. We did have a good call here the other day, so this kind of puts a nice little top on the current price action of Cardano when it could be moving to the downside. And you guys can see here I have right now a little bit of a channel kind of forming here on Cardano. Cardano's up this morning, and it's doing it was outperforming some others. At the same time, though, I would not be surprised if we pull back down to this level of support. You guys can see every single time we're at the support level, we have a predictive reversal. Let's pull up our oscillator here as well on the hourly chart. Right here, we had our double bullish flash right there. You guys can notice throughout this time, a lot of overboughts that were ignored, kind of confirming this more bullish trend. We had oversold with a green flash right there, paired with our predictive reversal up at this support level. Same thing coming back over here. We had some bullish momentum waves over here, reversal triangle as we got down there. Here we had a whole lot. We had our Morning Star, which those of you guys who use candlestick patterns as predictions, Morning Star is one of the more lethal calls there. We had our Morning Star predicted reversal up, our double flash here on the oscillator. So that would have been a great call. Right now, we had a lot of bullish stuff happening here, not at the support level, but we ended up reversing. But we did flash overbought with the red triangle as well. So we're watching for that next kind of pullback. I'm going to keep an eye on another level down here towards 36 cents. I think there's a chance Cardano could pull back down to 36 cents and we could get a lot of action. I told you guys Bitcoin is usually the main mover and then other altcoins follow it. Cardano is one that a lot of times it almost has like a mind of its own. It just kind of does its own stuff. So what I'm seeing right here, let me pull up our other stuff. We're heading back down toward the delta on the 1 hour chart. This is the predictive ranges right here. There could be an interesting spot as well at 38 cents with that bottom gold band and the dynamic reactor on the hourly chart. But if we keep falling there, especially on those larger time frames, let's go up to the 4 hour chart. We're kind of sitting in a more neutral zone right now, not necessarily overbought or oversold. RSI sitting in the middle. We're all sitting in the middle here. That could be an interesting. I still think there's a good chance. Oh, look where the dynamic reactor is. Yeah, I think we could pull back to the 4 hour dynamic reactor somewhere between 36 to 37 cents, and then watch for some major bullish signals to spike it up back up and go back to the upside. Piper, what about you? What are you seeing on Cardano that you like or dislike?
I've actually been over here looking at Adam getting it ready, but I can take a quick look over there.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at Adam.
If you see anything on Cardano, do that, and then let's transition. You just keep it, and we'll go right into Adam.
Yeah, so on ADA, the one thing that I do want to point out here, and I'll drop over to my chart. There we go. If you take a look here on ADA, the one thing that I do want to point out is that we are continuing to create bullish structure here, higher highs. We did get our bounce right here off of the 38.2% for this bounce up, and currently right now it looks like we may be coming back to test the top of our trade range. Here's our trade range for the predictive ranges. Looks like we could be coming back to bounce here in this upward trend right now. We're in this rising channel here, so I think that we're going to probably get a bounce right here. I think that we've got solid support right here. We've already retested it for the double bottom. I think we're going to probably bounce at about 38.2 cents here, and then probably come back up to test this upper resistance band. Also going to be in line right here at the top of our channel top and the 50% on the Fibonacci. So that's what I'm seeing right now.
Very nice.
Why would you think that it would move bullish though from there? Sorry, I'm throwing a wrench in the system. Go ahead on it.
Yeah, go back to yours real quick.
The reason that I think that is because we're in a bullish structure. When you have higher highs or higher lows, and higher highs, that's a bullish structure. The trend's your friend till the end. So
you don't think it's going to come back down to 36?
No, I think that this retest right here was definitively a retest for a double bottom. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think that we got massive support right here. Matter of fact, if I even throw on a fixed range volume profile, let me grab that real fast. Tim, I'll go to you and then I'll pull it back up.
Well, I'd say here is, and I'm actually going through and doing some stuff with double bottoms right now for the course that we're building. What he's right about, and I will say it's just not been confirmed just yet. When you're looking at double bottom, so this a little cheat sheet for anybody out there. You guys will learn more about this if you get that course that we're building. So here we go. Come on now. Double bottoms, what you're looking for here is this is not confirmed as a double bottom just yet because it easily could come back down to these levels, could drop down below it. It is a nice little thing that it did that yet, but what we're watching for is this level up here, this peak right here up at 40 cents, 40.92 cents. If this is a double bottom, what you should see happen is you should see a break of 40.92 cents, and then that would give you a prediction up here at 44 cents. So while this is playing out as what could be a double bottom, we got to wait for a breaking of 40 cents. We got to wait for the price to come up here. It could even retrace, but then if that does happen, now you're looking at potentially a price action up to 44 cents. Absolutely is possible. But double bottoms and double tops are ones you can't make a confident call on until the resistance or the support line, the next line, is broken. And right now, while, again, this is one of the things, Army Piper and I usually see things very, very similar. Sometimes you see things different. I'm very aware of these bottoms. I'm very aware of that double bottom. What I would say right now, though, is guess what we just did? We just set a lower high. We got to wait for this candle to officially close. But even looking at that candle right there, and we're on the 4 hour chart right here, looking at that right there, that shooting star, or a hammer, whatever you want to call it, those are reversal signals. That could be a reversal signal that brings back down. I want to see here in about 40 minutes where this, and we won't be live for this, but where does this candle close? It's starting out red. That could be a reversal that just kind of broke this double bottom, and then maybe we get a triple bottom. Maybe we only come back down. Clearly 37 cents, 37.12 cents is significant here. But again, you could easily just have that break and come down, have this price action come down and go to the dynamic reactor, go to this level of support, again, 36 something cents, and then watch. That should give us a nice little on these. If that dips like that, that should give us the price action and the volume we need to have some flashes of oversold on these oscillators down here. And that could be the next spark with a confluence of a lot of different levels of support to send us back up to the upside. Again, not saying what Piper said is wrong. I just want to give you guys the full picture that there's a lot we still need to see play out. And so it's all about probabilities, it's all about reading things. And until I get some confirmation, I'm not necessarily too confident about that move to the upside. Yeah, I'm not going to do this. I could sit here and play with a 5-minute and 10-minute and try to make a call on what's happening more in the smaller time frame. But 4-hour and hourly chart are already pretty small for this kind of stuff. Yeah. And the fact that we're not flashing oversold, I mean, even this is one of my things, is the fact that we flashed overbought and we're not getting anywhere close to oversold on the hourly chart. I think there's a ways we can go down. And the hourly chart is not necessarily respecting dynamic reactor right now. We're breaking above and below it a lot. So we're going to have to agree to disagree at this point, Piper, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I definitely still respect what you were showing there. And if it bounced back up, that's going to be a good call.
So I got that fixed range volume profile up here also. I'm looking at the 4-hour right now. You can see that we got the ribbon twist. We're still pushing up into the cloud with a lot of bullish run capability here. This is our value area high that's coming in right here at 37.938 cents, almost coinciding with the 38.2 Fibonacci. And then if I go ahead and I throw on the longer range fixed volume profile going all the way back to here, you can see that right now we're just above the value area high and it's support for us still. And even if we come back, there's your 36 right there with the point of control almost converging right here with the dynamic reactor on the 4-hour. So a tell of two fixed ranges going on there, but definitely a lot of support coming in. And this oscillator right now on the 4-hour with the MACD getting ready to cross back and the signal line cross gives me a lot more bullish indicators right now on ADA than what I'm seeing on bearish. So
love it.
Interesting.
Love it.
Well, let's jump. Let's do some Atom.
Wrong chart. There we go. All right, let's look at some Atom then. Adam, come here, Adam. I got to pull you back up here. Adam.
Cosmos.
All right.
Interoperability chain.
It is. It's a beautiful thing. Where is right there? Bam. Let's go in my wallet. Got some Cosmos running right here. What I'm seeing on the 4-hour right now, and this is kind of bearish actually. I'm seeing not the same story as what we're seeing over on ADA. Right now, if you take a look here, we have the rejection off of the dynamic reactor on the 4-hour. We did get this reversal down that printed on the oscillator, and you see that we got that ribbon twist, the famous ribbon twist going on there. We came down, but we got a bounce right here on this neckline of a pattern that's building right here right now, and it looks like it's telling us that there may be a head and shoulder pattern building right now. We'll see. It's got to play out first, but it's got to build its way out. So this is a pre-warning on this indicator. We also got multiple rejections here off of this long-running trend line here on this pattern. We're below the wedge right now. With this being our breakout right there, that red X gave us the breakout on this, and we've just been trying to get back up in there for several days, going all the way back to last Tuesday. So almost a week now, we've been trying to get back up in there. The only thing that I'm seeing that's bullish right now for Atom is that we are starting to get the curve back up on the oscillator with the ribbon twist. Yeah. But this could easily come back up, reject on the 0 line. We have it happen quite a bit on Atom. It's a thing that does. So, which would coincide with it hitting right up here on the dynamic reactor with this wedge again. So we could get this little pump up here. This comes up, bounces, and then we reject down again. I would like to see us hold this lower support band right here on the predictive ranges, which is coming in at about $10.77, $10.75. So
Yeah, I would say I think I'm in a lot of agreement with what you're saying there on Adam. You go to my screen. We talked about the double bottom there, but I mean, there's a double top formula on Adam here as well. Again, it's about zones. It's not going to be perfect here, but if you go to right here, that is a nice little double top formation. The difference is, and I'm not ready to necessarily call this dead and say it's done. It's not going to happen. But we made it after this first one. We came down here, set our support here. So this is the double top. We did technically break through, but on the 4-hour chart, you're going to notice we didn't close our candles below that. So I'm going to give it a little more time before we officially call it. Like you said, on the hourly chart, we're struggling with that dynamic reactor right now. We did have a predicted reversal up that was nice right there, but we had an oversold price action coming in on the oscillator, kind of confirming the bullish action. What I'm going to continue to watch in the same way I'm watching almost the exact opposite on Cardano. I'm going to watch this price action. Our ribbons are twisting here on the hourly chart. Let's continue to watch. The way you would trade this, if this is a double top, is you're waiting for a confirmed breakout down here. So some people might have gotten stuck right here. You're waiting for a confirmed breakout to come below this support level, and then you would take the length of this support level, or the length of this little channel thing going on, and you'd come down here. This could see Adam drop again. I don't like that 1030. That's like it would be its low. Oh, it's a double low to what we had back here in March. That's a lot, but that's what we're looking at right here. If that double bottom plays out, we could see a price fall back down to those lows we had back on March 10th, down here towards 1030. But I think Piper and I are in agreement that this is more of a bearish looking chart than bullish at this moment. Let's see. We have time for probably one more today, and let's do one that's maybe not very common. Not that we do Adam a whole lot, but Adam and ADA get a lot of attention. Let's take one that doesn't necessarily get a lot. And I saw a request from Jeep Girl asking for a Dezo. So that's I was just looking at it a second ago, and then I had to change it up to see USD. Decentralized social. Have you, Piper, before I get into this, have you ever traded, worked with, dealt with this project at all?
Yes, actually, I just did TA on this yesterday on Crypto Gem Hunters for Crypto Seth.
That sounds awesome. Why don't we go ahead and jump over to your screen then instead of
let me pull up
for myself. But
let me pull up Archie's chart because I do a chart for Crypto Archie over there, and actually it's on DCEL already. It's the one that it was on from yesterday. So
perfect.
So I was looking at this here yesterday on the 4-hour, and I was showing that we did get up and we got a touch on the 50% line. Anything under that 50% line is considered bearish on the Fibonacci. That rejected us. We came down. You can see we broke the 382. We tried to get back above it there. It got rejected also. And right now we're currently hitting off of the support line of our predictive ranges here from the Chart Prime predictive ranges in the Smart Money Concepts bundle. One of the things that I was pointing out though is that we do have right now, it looks like we're getting curvature on our oscillator that could be coming back up to give us a bounce off of the zero line. You can see it does this quite a bit in the zero range here. When it's coming down from the below it, it will reject down, but when it comes from the top, it will get a little bounce here. And I know this looks really flat right there, but if I actually bring this into play here, you'll see that that's not as flat as it looks when you look at the volume that was moved there, right? So lots of big moves here recently, but when you have a run up like this, guys, you're going to get a cool down. Let me come on, mark it for me. You're going to get a cool off on this. And right now we're back down to right before we got that run up. So I think right now we could be finding some support and getting that move here on this coming back up that gives us a little bit of support off of this green support line here. If it does break down though from that level, then you can expect that we're probably going to be coming down to the 236, which will give us this previous rejection line that we turned into support on the retest there. So
interesting. Yeah, my quick glance at it, I was on the daily chart noticing if you went back to October, we just kissed the 0.5 perfectly, so the 50% retracement. We closed candle buys on the daily chart right at 0.382, but we got that wick up to 0.5. As we're making our way back down, I was noticing, I just showed you a daily chart. The daily chart definitely is flashing over. It hasn't printed and said overbought just yet, but that little orange box, nice little peak seeker as we're coming back down. It's gonna say that that's the reversal nicely. 4-hour chart, kind of more neutral. Dynamic reactors down here below the 0.23, the 0.3. What is this? 0.2. What did I say? 0.23. 0.236. I forgot that last one. Kind of neutral when we're looking at the oscillators, not necessarily anything crazy. It's the hourly chart. And I don't know if you said this or not, but we're getting really close to that dynamic reactor, but we are setting these lower highs. We're bottoming out here, but despite the fact that we're bottoming out on the hourly chart right here, the fact that we're still moving to the downside, and this isn't a perfect line, but the fact that we're doing something along this line right here, this is a descending triangle. And even if let's go more, let's go less aggressive and only do the length of this one, I think there's a chance we could see bears push this sucker down. Like you said, it's overextended. We could see this be pushed back down to that 0.236 level, maybe even right below it, around $10.42. Again, break that. We were using that dynamic reactor as support for a long time here. Might be time to flip it back red, take some cool off here on this decentralized social token. A lot of great stuff here, guys. Guess what? That's going to end today's show because it is 10:30, and we're going to really try not to abuse. Extra 30 minutes is nice, but we're going to try not to run too much past it. Make sure you stay tuned for future shows. Certain shows we might not do a lot of technical analysis. We might have guests run over in this time. We might have stories run over in this time. Keep yourself flexible with this. But if you guys in chat, I know saw a lot of coins there. Be ready because we will be answering those frequently. That's the purpose of this extra 30 minutes, is to interact and give you guys more of what you guys want. So just because we didn't talk about your show today does not mean we won't talk about your coin today. Does not mean we won't talk about your coin in future shows. Make sure though you are subscribed and you watch each and every day, and you just might get your coin answered here on the Investing Bros. With that said though, everybody, we love all of you guys. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. You guys have a great day.